The title of our discussion is The Trajectory of Impact. Impact's been in business nearly 18 years. Do we still need it?
Well, we most definitely need it, and that self-evaluation or debrief that she talked about this morning, we do that on a regular basis to figure out what's effective, what's working, and then what needs to be added. And it's the constant, I think, evolution. And a lot of times the RABs come up with a pilot program that bubbles up and becomes a national program. So for example, we started with a drug testing database. We took a look at it. We've seen the national influence of marijuana legalization, and we didn't get rid of drug testing, but we went to an oral swab to try and be adaptive and react to the industry. So what the things we do in the build program and all the programs we've heard about this morning and we'll hear the rest of the week, we wouldn't be doing them if they weren't necessary. Some are more effective than others, and we put an audit and finance committee together to measure what we're doing, take a look at the return on investment, and then they advise Bill and I and the full board as to the value of those programs. And I see more need now than we had when we started. My biggest criticism was I thought we were a mile wide and an inch deep, and I wanted to get good at several things. And we've worked on sharpening that focus, but it continues to evolve. And we still have new programs.
I agree I think we need impact more now than ever. And when we started impact in 2003, it was drug testing, it was this and that. And it took us a long time to get rid of that moniker that we had. Impact, that's just a drug testing thing. Well, it wasn't intended for that to be. I hate to think, looking back 20 years almost, if we were in this workforce discussion that we're in right now of how we're going to staff all this work that we all know is out there, if we didn't have impact where we could all come together and collaborate, every area of the country, labor and management, here, this is what we've got, and here's where we're going. If it weren't for impact, last night I had a dinner with Southeastern District Council talking about some work that we have coming up in their council. And Jack had all the managers there, and we got to really get in-depth discussion about a certain project that we're going to be doing that's going to take a lot of effort from the iron workers. If it weren't for impact, Eric and I in December, we went up to Dearborn, Ford Land, and talked to the head guy from Ford, Eric Grubb. And the first thing he asked Eric, he said, okay, how are you going to man this job? And Eric's got a plan. And I think he'll be speaking to that later, but and not just for our project, but for all projects, is how we're going to really increase our availability of workforce. Without impact, we wouldn't be doing that. We have to have this collaborative effort. All you contractors out there, you get to know all your fellow contractors, and I know a lot of you, when you leave an impact meeting or an RAB, you're talking to another contractor about a job that you might be wanting to do with them. You wouldn't be doing that if it weren't for impact, because you wouldn't have the capability to assemble like that. So when I think of pension reform, well, we're going to be doing some lobbying with Ross here next month, I guess it is, or maybe it's in April. In DC, we have a bunch of our contractors coming up there. We walk in there with the ironworkers and we're holding hands and we're telling these Congress people and senators and their staff, we're together on this. And they're like, what is this? The union and management, they're all holding hands? We don't see that every day. Well, that's what impact does. And we are getting results, and legislatively too, because we're working together. Working with other groups like TALK and AGC, union side. There's other groups out there, IBEW, mechanical contractors. We work with all of them. And again, without impact, we wouldn't have the forum for doing that.
So, the evolution is we started with an annual meeting. In the old days, the ironworkers met every winter. The union leaders gave an annual accounting of finances, membership, and those types of things. And the general officers went and visited with contractor groups and reported back or waited for things to bubble up. By having a combined meeting, and then we have our union business on the tail end of this, it allows us to, just simply catch up with potential work forecasts, and the employers can tell us where they think there's a problem or where there's a hot spot where they need more members. This one meeting is one thing that impacts us. I think the greatest thing that we do is having those 13 RABs. It allows the contractors and the local labor leaders to get together, not just every 3 years for collective bargaining and hurl insults or demean each other, but actually come up with solutions midstream so that you're arm in arm and you're locked in with your contractors that are getting butter in your bread every day and getting to work in the area. And then you start adding in the different departments that Kevin oversees with the staff and the layers of whether it's build for a brand new contractor or whether it's business development for our existing contractors and recognizing, hey, we're now working in these plants. And on and on and on. The off-the-job accident, the maternity benefit. These are all different things that are now added to the everyday fabric of, I look at how many checks we're writing for laid up members and know that Impact's got a big part of that. But that started with a little bubble up idea, and then it broadens, and then we make it a national plan. So yeah, to circle back to the answer to your question, we do so many little things, and and admittedly some are more effective. Joe Warbeck, right now, there's a lot of guys like me sitting in the room, and you're out there, and we still see a mass exodus of baby boomers. The tail end of the baby boomers are leaving. Those are our superintendents and foremen. So the more we can stand up and get more foremen and superintendent trained, but by having the vehicle of Impact, we were able to listen to the employers, talk to the different regions, and that was a constant drumbeat is we need more supervision, and oh, by the way, we need more craft workers too, more iron workers, men and women in the trades. And so, it's given us that feedback that helps guide us as industry stakeholders rather than just thinking we know what the union guys used to think we know what the employers want, and the employers always thought, the union guys are hard asses and putting a steward on their job, but taken a lot of that away. And I think, it's about solutions and building the projects, and we're in competition with all the other crafts too. So we better be aligned with our employers, and I think it's fostered that better relationship.
Well, along those same lines, we had a board meeting on Monday, and you get a group of contractors together, a group of iron workers. How would you characterize those meetings, bringing, nationally recognized contractors together with your ironworker leadership?
There's a lot of value, but there's also, the accountability. We're charged with the finances, the investment, the money, the expenditures. So it's not just what Bill and Eric want to do. And so we have a board, and we have an executive board that vets the programs to make sure that we're soundly investing the money, that the audit committee tells us and gives us feedback on the programs. And it is, it's concentrated. It's only a smaller group of folks, but by getting their feedback, the contractors have good business ideology and experience, and the labor guys, they know the constructability, and together we make the delivery through the apprenticeship training model. Lee had a meeting on the front end of that, and we talk about new initiatives like our global wind organization for offshore wind. In order to be prepared, Impact has financed that. But, before we never had the resources to get there, and then the contractors recognize, if we want an opportunity at that onshore and the modular assembly, we got to get the certifications to the workers, and we got a pool of money that's going to pay for a centralized training program. Lee Worley, then through the National Training Fund, I wrote this in my fresh, hot off the press with the president's page, but by meeting together, now Impact funded the cost of the certification, and Lee Worley's going to deliver the curriculum and develop that, and it serves labor and management. So it's just a never-ending, continuous need, but it's new. Right?
Yeah.
So one of the things we talked about in our legal trust meeting yesterday was suicide prevention. mental health issues. How many of you recognize right now that where we are in our society, that suicide and mental health are important issues? Raise your hand if you think it's just. Better everybody raise their hand. Well, guess what? We're going to get involved in this, and we're going to try and find a way to help our members and our contractors. And it's not just ironworkers that are doing it. We got contractors doing it. We took a poll in our meeting yesterday of how many fatalities we had in the different locals that were represented there. And
On the job.
on the job versus how many suicides we have. Now, we didn't have every local represented. And,
I just polled the labor-only guys.
yeah, and it was like 70.
71 deaths by suicide or overdose and opioid addiction, 8 worksite fatalities last year. 8 too many, but the 71, I told everyone, you know, nobody's talking about it, but I keep tabs with my business manager, and I see a young member dies, and I ask what that's about. So we just did an informal poll, but, you know, 10 to 1, people are taking their lives. It's an epidemic, and it's a problem. And so we're trying to, whether we modify the app, create more mental health issues. We used to just pay attention till we counted noses, everyone left the job site together, we're good. We got to think about the mental well-being when our members are going home and your employees.
And it's not just our members, it's their wives or spouse or husbands, it's their children. It's out there. And we have the capability not to fix it, but to start trying to deal with it in a more effective fashion than we have up till now. Workforce development, staff shortages. How many of you think that that's one of the most important things we're facing in 22 and 23? Raise your hand.
If you don't think so, wait, labor guys.
Yeah, if you
'cause on
don't think so, come see me.
Thursday, I'm going
some
to
of
share
your
with you
guys.
some big numbers, and it's going to knock your socks off.
We're going to have to do some tremendous staffing, and through Impact in Eric's office, there's a plan that's being developed. It's going to be, I'm not going to steal his thunder, but it's going to be innovative. It's something we've never done before, and we're like Diana said today, we may fail, but we're going to try, and I don't think we're going to fail. Because we just got too many smart people on board on both labor and management who are ready to see us make an accomplishment here.
So when you guys throw the keys to the next guy, it's a two-part question.
What did you hear?
Not anytime soon. You throw the keys to the next guy, you're walking away from your storied careers. What an impact would you say, oh man, I wish we could do that over again because we would have done something differently, and what are you most proud of?
As a former district council president of Chicago, I saw President Hunt's vision, and you know, you're the district council president, you're like the team captain. I was really proud. We were one of the first councils all in at the 1%, and then we availed ourselves to a lot of the programs. We beta tested the off-the-job accident program out of our district council, creating something that benefits our members and creates some of that pool of money for people who are injured and taking care of them. The things I regret, I don't know. I'm never satisfied. So at the end of the day, I always wish we could do more and be more effective. But yeah, no, I'm not as embarrassed of any activities as I am wishing that it, you know, I'm shocked when the regionals go and talk to the contractors, how few people know the different layers. So how we communicate better, even to the union folk, or my brothers and sisters and the contractors, the awareness of the programs within Impact is probably my biggest regret.
Bill?
I think if I had to say I have a regret, it's not a regret, it's just an observation. When we first started Impact, I mentioned earlier, you know, everybody thought, oh, this is just a big drug testing program. We could have done maybe a better job of communicating some of the different programs that we wanted to put in play, but it just kept coming back for the first couple of years. Well, there's just drug testing and this, that, and the other. Well, now, drug testing, everybody, I mean, we're going to a swab test now, guys. I mean, we've already graduated past peeing in the cup, and we're going to do swab testing on the job sites, and nobody thinks that's a bad deal, unless I haven't heard from them. If you think it's a bad deal, I'd like to know about it offline, but we think this is going to make things easier for us. We're going to start trying to deal with this legalized marijuana situation, and I don't have a clue. I know we have a breakout on it here. I don't know how we're going to deal with that, but we're going to have to find a way of doing it. And so we're going to invest some time and talent and treasure to try to find a way to get a good program put together, so that we can recognize, a person's right, if they live in a state where it's legal, to do it, and implications therefore. I had a guy, I was telling these guys the other day, I had a guy about 3 or 4 years ago on a job. He fell 12 feet, and on our job, accident, automatic drug test, right? Post-accident drug test. Tested positive for marijuana. Guy's 45 years old, he's got a family, and we're going to have to beach this guy for a week for failing the drug test. And he came up to me when he came back to work, and he said, "Bill, I want to tell you, I smoked a joint 3 weeks ago in the party van going to the Mizzou football game. I haven't had a joint since then." And I'm like, well, he can do that, and we got to bust him. I can drink a 12-pack of beer the night before I go to work, and I can go to work and I still pass the urine test. So this is one of the part of the calculus that we're going to have to figure out.
Did you just say pot's okay?
No.
Okay.
No. In fact, when I said that, I think all the stoners in the room are going, "Hey, yeah."
Well, you walk through a cloud of that out on the street.
You don't have to raise your hand if you're a high school stoner.
So we have almost 4,000 contractors. What do you tell them to get them more involved, engaged in what we do? And a lot of them think, still to this day, well, you take my money and I don't get anything out of it. I talked to a guy last night. Oh, you guys just take stuff and you don't get anything out. What do you?
I'll tell you what we tell them, and it's true. Every day we're getting more contractors who want to become involved with Impact. I just talked to one this morning up here. He said, how do I get involved? And so it's easy. We'll show you how to get involved. And it kills me because once they get involved and they start going to RAB meetings and coming out to this conference and participating in all the things that Impact has to offer, they always come back and say, gosh, if I'd only known this 5 years ago. I mean, so I'm telling you, make the investment if you're a contractor or a labor leader. Just, you got to be involved and help us move the needle here.
How can we help business managers?
Well, business managers have an awesome responsibility to get elected, and if they moved up the ranks, they're kind of prepared. If they come in cold, there's so much financial and accountability to absorb everything and to try and grow their labor management relations. There's a culture. Some locals are a little more adversarial, some are becoming more friendly, but I think over time through Impact, the business managers are seeing that there's business in their name for a reason. And part of the business is having a rapport with the employers. So not only can contract negotiations go a little bit better, but you can also find out where your delta is as far as where you need more work, where you need things for the next opportunity to clear the end of the bench, or to just keep the members fully employed. And that takes dialogue and it takes relationships.
We're running up against time. What parting shots do you have? Knowing full well they're going to be around here all week and you can ask them anything.
My problem, my parting shot would be is I see a lot of familiar faces and people who come here to be informed, share information, and gain information. The problem is the layer of employers and local unions that don't necessarily make the time to come to this. And then they'll act like something's a new revelation, but I really think attending these meetings by a minimum of the business manager from every local should be mandatory, because we're missing the mark on conveying things. So on Thursday, I got a strategy on workforce development, but I knew because of COVID and different things, we weren't going to have good attendance. So we're following it up with article in the next magazine in April, just to relay them to the people who didn't come to the room. Because give the greatest idea in the world, but if nobody's here to help get their shoulder behind the wheel, it doesn't work.
Parting shot?
Well, first of all, we're glad to see all of you. And like Eric said, it's been 2 years since we've seen some of you folks, and it's great reconnecting and everything. I think our attendance is better than I would have guessed. We're about 200 or 300 short from our high water mark, but obviously we know why that is. But we got the room filled up here, and we appreciate you all coming out, and it's been great visiting with you all. And just work this guy like a rented mule, because that's his job.
No problem there. Thank you guys very much for your time.
Thank you.